So recently, one of the worst kept secrets in video games has of course been the Castlevania Advance Collection. We've seen it pop up on multiple rating websites for different regions, and it was just a matter of time before this game was announced. Well, during the latest Nintendo Direct presentation, which I made a full video on, make sure you guys check that video out after checking out this video, they of course unveiled the Castlevania Advance Collection for the Nintendo Switch, comprising of 4 Castlevania games for $19.99. Now, as someone who grew up playing Castlevania games, I'm very familiar with all of these titles, so I was definitely interested to see just how well they hold up and to see how well the ports were done on the Nintendo Switch. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, be sure to like and share the video as well, but without any further ado, let's dive into the Castlevania Advance Collection and see if it's worth your $20. So like I said, this is a compilation of 4 Castlevania games. Now when you look at the other Castlevania Anniversary Collection, there obviously was a lot more games available for that. You had Super Nintendo games, Genesis games, you had the original NES games, and you had Game Boy games on this. Whereas with this collection, you're only getting 4 games. But I say only 4 games, but these 4 games can last you much longer than the previous Castlevania games in the Castlevania Anniversary Collection can last you. So we're going to talk about each of the games very briefly. I'm going to go in my order of least favorite to most favorite. Not saying that the least favorite game is a bad game or anything like that, but that's just how we're going to go with this. My least favorite game in the compilation definitely has to be Castlevania Circle of the Moon. Now this was the first Castlevania game released for the Game Boy Advance, coming off of the success of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and really this game just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb to me. I think the main problem with Castlevania Circle of the Moon is once you've played the other 2 Game Boy Advance games and then the subsequent Nintendo DS Castlevania games, Circle of the Moon just doesn't feel like any of those games. The jumping itself feels very floaty, the combat doesn't feel quite as precise, your character sprite is very small, and it makes the world feel much larger, but it makes everything in the world feel much larger because of how small your sprite is. Even the movement of the character sprite is very wonky. Now I still think it's a decent enough game, but as far as what games are my most favorite on this compilation, this would definitely be towards the bottom. The next game is Castlevania Dracula X, which most people would probably put at the bottom of their list, but you know, to me, I think it's better and more enjoyable than Circle of the Moon. Now this game sticks out because of the fact that this is a traditional Castlevania experience, whereas all of the Game Boy Advance games definitely have those Metroidvania elements that were introduced in Symphony of the Night. This is a pure 2D side-scrolling Castlevania game where you go left to right and you take out different enemies. Now at the time of the release of this game got panned on the Super Nintendo because it was based on a game called Castlevania Rondo of Blood, which came out on the PC engine only in Japan. And compared 1-to-1 with that game, you could definitely make the case that Rondo of Blood was a lot better. But I still think Dracula X on its own is a very cool game. You know, the graphics themselves are pretty nice, everything flows pretty decently. I think the character sprites look good in the game, but the thing that really sticks out to me in Castlevania Dracula X has to be the music. This is CD quality music playing on a Super Nintendo, and really it just sounds absolutely fantastic. The Super Nintendo was usually not capable of recreating sounds such as this, but this sounds like something you would have popped onto a disc and then popped into your car and listened to it on the ride home. Almost like a PlayStation 1 CD audio quality with this game. I think it's a very basic but very enjoyable Castlevania experience. And wrapping up the collection, we have Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance and Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. Now both of these games do feel pretty similar, but I definitely like Aria of Sorrow a little bit more than Harmony of Dissonance. Now Harmony of Dissonance is still a great game. You play as a Belmont, so you start out with a whip, and you can definitely start to feel some of the Symphony of the Night inspired elements be introduced into Harmony of Dissonance. It definitely feels like a game that was set within the same sort of universe that Symphony of the Night took place in. But there's one thing that really sort of detracts from the experience for me in Harmony of Dissonance, and that's the music. It's just not really all that great. It sounds like a bit of a step back compared to even Circle of the Moon as far as audio quality is concerned. There's some decent tracks here and there, but for the most part the soundtrack is very disappointing. Now, both Harmony of Dissonance and Aria of Sorrow have the same heavy Metroidvania elements, where you basically explore this huge castle, you try to find your way, you try to find different items to equip, and different elements to equip as well. Now, whereas Harmony of Dissonance pretty much focuses on the magic side of things, Aria of Sorrow is definitely my favorite because of the soul stuff in the game. Now, if you've ever heard me talk about Castlevania games, you would know that one of my favorite games in the Castlevania franchise is Castlevania Dawn of Souls for the Nintendo DS. I loved collecting all the different souls in the game that gave you different abilities that you would be able to use on your character. And even the character in Aria of Sorrow is the same character from Castlevania Dawn of Souls, featuring, of course, Soma Cruz. So I love this game. I think this game is the best game on this compilation, and everything about it is just very high quality, from the production to the music to the graphics to the things that you can do within the game. It's just an absolutely fantastic experience. But with that being said, all the other games in the collection are really good too, and they're games that will take you a long time to play through, and there's enough differences between the three games to make you want to check out all three of the games. I'm leaving off Dracula X because, of course, that was a Super Nintendo game. So beyond just the games themselves, we of course have to talk about the quality of the ports and what was added into the games to make them sort of stand out. Now, M2 handled the emulation on this, and if you know anything about M2, they're pretty damn good at emulation, and I would say the emulation in this game is spot on. You can do things like get a quick synopsis of all of the stories from the game, which is kind of nice, you know, if you're into that sort of stuff. I never really got super deep into the stories of Castlevania games, but it is kind of cool. There is a music jukebox in which you can listen to different soundtracks from all of the games, and you can actually make a little playlist of them. So if you want to pick one song from one game, another song from another game, and make that playlist together, you can do that. There's also a pretty cool gallery as well. I do wish that they would have split up the gallery to sort of have it so that you could select it by game instead of just making it, well, one big gallery overall. I thought that was kind of a weird thing, but most of the gallery stuff is very nice. It's always cool to see drawings and things of that nature. And of course, there are quality of life improvements featured in all of the games. You could do things like save states, rewind time, and basic things like that. As far as the display settings are concerned, you can do things like pixel perfect, you can stretch it out, and even in Dracula X, you can apply CRT filters to the games, which is a nice little touch. The one thing I really like is the enhanced audio. Now, this is on by default, but I think this is really cool because it really makes the songs pop like a lot more. And I was very impressed to hear the enhanced audio in these games because it definitely does make a difference, especially when you're talking about a franchise such as Castlevania, which always, for the most part, and Harmony of Dissonance aside, always has a great soundtrack and some very memorable tunes. So I definitely enjoyed this feature that was in there. There's also game-specific features. So in Aria of Sorrow, you of course collect these different souls, and you get these souls by killing enemies. Well, by default, it'll have a little thing on the side of the screen where when you're attacking an enemy, it will tell you if you've collected that soul or not. And that's actually very handy because where you're talking about the Nintendo DS games, you could just look on the bottom screen. But with these games, you can't do that. You would have to go into a pause menu to see if you've already gotten these souls. So this is a small but really good quality of life improvement that you can actually turn off if you don't like seeing it on the screen. But for me, I kept it on there because, well, I want to know what souls I need to get. Overall, though, this is another great Castlevania compilation, and I would probably say I like it a little bit more than the Anniversary Collection. And I love the Anniversary Collection because of the diversity of the titles and the different systems you get. But these are some of the best games of all time, especially games like Aria of Sorrow. And that game alone is worth the $20 price point. Like, if you look at how much these games cost physically to buy nowadays on the secondhand market, it's absolutely ridiculous. So we now have a great way to play the Castlevania Game Boy Advance games and even play a little Super Nintendo as well. So when you factor the fact that we have the Anniversary Collection and now we have this collection, it's a pretty beefy Castlevania lineup of games that you can play on your Nintendo Switch. And of course, I'll always prefer to play these games on the Switch because, well, the Switch has a portable mode. Why am I going to play these on a PlayStation or an Xbox if I can't take the games with me? I mean, they were designed to be taken with me in the first place. So those are my thoughts on the Castlevania Advance Collection. If you're a Castlevania fan and you have some memories of these games, definitely play it. If you have fond memories of these games, definitely play it. And if you're just a casual Castlevania fan, definitely play it. This is a great franchise and a great compilation of games. So let me know what you think of everything in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.